Hey guys, Jason Grossman here. Before we get started, just want to make sure you guys can hear me. If you can hear me, if you can click on raising your hand so I know you can get started. Awesome. And as I can see, Maura and Simone and everybody else's hands going up. I just want to take this opportunity to say thanks so much for joining us tonight. If you're in Australia, it's a morning. If you're in the UK or United States, would also be afternoon. So welcome. We've got people from, I believe, 4 different countries. So thanks so much for joining us this evening, today, this morning, whatever it is in your part of the world. And most of you I know me or know of me. My name is Jason Grossman. I've been in the health and fitness industry for 17 years and had a great opportunity to do some incredible things, including build 2 7-figure fitness business. And over the last 8 years, worked with over 1,000 personal trainers across 9 countries to grow their business. But tonight is not about me. Tonight we are absolutely blessed with an opportunity to hear from somebody that has had incredible success and made a massive impact in the health and fitness industry, not just in Australia, but across the globe as well. And the person I'm about to hand this over to he is about to share with you, this is his idea. He wants to talk to you guys and add some value that's not just about business and how to do marketing, sales like we normally focus on, but how you can add more value to your PT clients with nutrition and tracking. And he's going to share with you exactly what he does to track and to add value to his clients with nutrition to help fast track their results and goals with not just fitness, but those elements as well. So the gentleman I'm about to share with you, I've known him for about, I would say, 3 or 4 years. And, we've become quite good friends. And what I love about Cam is he's incredibly hungry to genuinely impact and change lives and help other people. And that was one of the first things I noticed about Cam and why I love working with him. And, we're blessed because this is his idea, what we're about to hear from him. He's not being paid for, I'm not being paid for it, I'm not paying him, no one else is paying him. This is actually his idea to do this. So he's here of his own accord, of his own bat, and he could be doing anything he wants this evening. He's here to add value and to serve you guys. So I really hope that you respect and appreciate his time, because it is a big deal for him to spend 45 minutes of his time with you now, sharing with you stuff that he does in his business. So he's been running a personal training business himself for over 14 years and had a lot of success in the industry. He's been training and teaching other personal trainers for 6 years to get their certificate 3 and 4 in personal training and become qualified. He's a Czech practitioner and a Czech holistic lifestyle coach. Working personally with Paul Chek level 3. He's a neurokinetic therapist. He's done his master practitioner in neurolinguistic programming. I got a list of stuff here. I'm not going to read it all out because it's just crazy. But without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to a good friend of mine and also the head coach in Quantum Fitness Marketing. He's our head coach in our business now as well. Please give it up for Mr. Cam now. I'm just going to grab him now.
Unmuted.
Hey Cam, are you there?
Yeah, Jace, thanks for the intro.
Awesome. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Give control.
So you can share your screen and we can see it?
Let's just see. Show my screen.
Okay. So you should be able to... There you go. Cool. We can see it. I'm going to put myself on mute and leave them in your capable hands.
Beautiful. Again, thanks, Jace, for the intro. And welcome along, everybody, to tonight's little session. I just thought, Jace and I were having a bit of a chat and seeing how else we can add some value to everybody in the community. And I thought I wouldn't mind doing a talk. And I guess Jace does a lot of the work with the business coaching. And I thought, well, what about if we do something a little bit different and add a bit of value to the way that they work with their clients on a one-to-one level? So the first topic I thought we could do was how to add value to your PT clients with nutrition and how to track that as well. Like Jay says, I did my certificate 3 back in 1999, so what's that, 17 years in the PT game. And when I first started, it was all about smashing and bashing, right? You just get into the gym and you train them as hard as you can and burn off as many calories as you could, and that worked for some people, but then there was others that plateaued and there was others that might have even got worse. And then I stumbled across Paul Chek and his education systems and really got into the holistic lifestyle coaching, which delves right into some nutrition. And it completely changed the way I train my clients now and I coach people. And I'm sure you guys have probably heard that anybody getting results out there today, there's percentages that have been thrown around about how much of it is nutrition and lifestyle. And the average sort of number that pops up is about 70-80% of anybody getting results comes down to their nutrition and lifestyle. Yes, exercise is important, and I feel that a big part of it that we can definitely work on with our clients is nutrition. So tonight we're going to go through a little bit on coaching and how to coach someone with nutrition, because obviously a lot of us out there, and I'm not even a nutritionalist, right? But I still coach a lot of my clients and take them through healthy eating plans and better ways to eat. So there's a specific way to do that so you don't get yourselves in trouble. Then we're going to go through a little bit on nutrition. And when it comes to nutrition, there's a couple of things that are important to me that I share across to my clients. And the two main things is the quality of food and the quantity of food. So we're talking about calories, and we'll also talk about macronutrients, because there's over 1,000 different diets out there right now, and not one of them can put their hand up and say, I work for everybody, right? So just as different as we look on the outside is how different we are on the inside. And we need to match that when it comes to nutrition. And like I said, with the study that I've done, I've even learned that somebody might fit a specific macronutrient ratio, but if they're adrenally exhausted or there's got a lot of stress in their life, they might need additional amounts of protein and fat, and especially saturated fat. I put a lot of my clients on digestive cleanse and clean their gut out and work on their digestive health, because it's one of the main systems that we can get functioning so somebody can get results. And if I put somebody on a digestive cleanse, the food that they're going to eat, the macronutrients is going to be completely different. We're going to cut out pretty much all the sugar from their diet. And then same if someone had a slow metabolism and they got some issues with their thyroid, I'm going to feed them slightly different again. So even though we might stick to one diet plan, depending on the day, the week, the month, or the year, and where that person is in their life, their nutrition and lifestyle will have to be completely different. So let's get into this. All right. Just shift this over. So everyone can see the slides. Just whack a hand up if you can see that okay, just so I'm sure that everyone's on track and they can see it properly. Beautiful. All right, so the first thing when it comes to training and coaching anybody that I've learned is we need to figure out what their dream is, what their one love is. We need something that's big enough to motivate that person to make the changes. I'm sure you've all done it in the past and you've given somebody the best program possible, the best nutritional advice possible, but how many of them actually truly stick to it? It might be only a small percent. And some of the stats I've seen, it's like 6% of members, especially at Fitness First, are getting results in the gym. That's only 6%. It means that 95% of people that are in the gym aren't getting the results they want. And I believe the biggest thing we can work on, first of all, before we get into any exercising, any nutrition work or anything, is working on their dream. So we've got to find something that's going to be motivating enough to pull them out of bed, get them down the gym, motivating enough to find the time to be able to feed them properly, motivate them enough to do their own cooking, to value their health a little bit more than other things in their life. And a good way I put it to a client, I say, if you had a magic wand, what would you change? What would your life look like? If you could wave this wand and you could create the ideal life, what would it look like? All right. And when I ask these questions, I get them to be quite selfish. They might have a family, or I can't do this because I got a job. Well, let's not worry about that. Imagine you had this wand and you could wave it and you could create whatever you wanted. So it allows us to sort of see into their mind about what it is that they're truly dreaming about or would love to do. Another quote that I picked up along the way is Jerry West, who's a basketball coach from the States. He says, if you got a dream big enough, there's no room for chaos. I remember when I was getting ready for martial arts competitions and Muay Thai fights, I might have been 4 weeks out from a competition, If I had a friend come over and say, let's go out for a beer and a pizza, there was no way in hell I would have done that, because I had a dream that was big enough that wasn't going to distract me. All right, so when it comes to coaching people, a couple of things that I think are key. First one is get to know your clients. Okay, obviously at the first sit down session with them, we go through a bunch of questionnaires, we find out about them, but the more you can find out about them, the more we can figure out how to motivate them, how to drive them, and get them the results that they need. Second most important thing is we need to customize our approach. Everything that I do with a client is very individual. I go through a very thorough assessment process when it comes to nutrition, lifestyle, and even their movements, range of motions, length tension relationships, and other things, so I can write a very specific program, and especially when it comes to the nutrition. Like I was touching on before, we're all completely different, right? And we need to really customize our approach to really help those clients the best we can. Don't overwhelm them. I think a lot of the time we forget that we've been eating healthy or doing this lifestyle or exercise thing for quite a while, and now it's quite ingrained into us. So for us, it's a habit, right? We wake up and we do our things, and it's quite easy. However, most people out there, their values are a bit backwards in a way, and their health might not be as important as what it is to us. So I remember when I first started, I'd be throwing the book at them. You got to exercise 3 to 5 times a week. You got to change your diet. You got to stop drinking, give up the cigarettes. And I was just throwing the whole thing at them rather than little steps. Okay, so even when someone's drinking nowadays, I avoid getting them to stop drinking. I might just offer them healthier ways to do it. Same with smoking. If someone's smoking, rather than just telling them to quit smoking, because it could be their crutch, it could be the one thing that is saving them right now. So I might get them to buy a vaporizer or look into some organic tobaccos. I'm always looking for healthier ways. And our nervous system, the way change happens, it happens through our nervous system, and it's quite challenging. It's like 21 days to make or break a habit. So even if you're sitting there right now, cross your arms, and it feels nice and comfortable. But if you cross your arms the other way, it feels a bit weird. And there's a thing called an engram, which is in our nervous system, and it takes 3,000 to 5,000 repetitions to replace an old engram and replace it with a new neural motor program. Okay, so imagine if you were to brush your teeth with your left hand or the other hand for the next month, how challenging that would be. So a lot of our clients feel this sort of challenge through the nervous system and through their body, when we might make the slightest change to their nutritional regime. Be sensitive to their changes. Everybody falls off the wagon every now and then. They're not going to stick to everything that we want them to, even though we know it's going to help them. So just go, take a breath, be sensitive, because it's going to happen. Okay, so when it comes to coaching people, what you can say, we can discuss nutrition and lifestyle factors. There's nothing wrong with saying that an apple is much better than a loaf of bread, that a glass of water is much better than a Coke. Okay, so we can discuss those nutritional lifestyle factors. I provide my clients with a lot of educational material. I might get articles off the website. I might get YouTube videos off YouTube and forward it to them so they can watch it and they can start educating themselves rather than me having to do it and maybe get myself in trouble. I can give advice about how to build and maintain nutritional health. Always treat people kindly and fairly. Be courteous and considerate. Avoid problems, and it improves your business. Because again, I'm a bit of a hunter and gatherer when it comes to my food style. And I know there's vegetarians out there and there's people with all different types of beliefs. And it's almost as enriched, and, they want to protect their beliefs when it comes to nutrition almost as much as religion. I've posted some stuff on Facebook, and some of the comments I get back from people with opposing opinions can be quite challenging. So make sure even if it doesn't align with your own values and your beliefs, and you don't believe in what they're doing, still be kind and courteous to them. Otherwise, it can just cause a whole bunch of issues, trust me. Making claims. So avoid making any claims. This diet will do this, or if you do this, it's going to do that. Don't promise anything. What I do on the other hand is look, I've worked with people like you in the past, and others that I've helped using this approach have got these results. Okay, so I'm not making any claims. I'm just showing that what I've done with my clients and what my clients have done and what I've done in my own personal life has worked. And if you want to give it a go, it might work for you. I'm not saying that it's going to, because then you might get yourself in some trouble. All right, last one before we start getting into nutrition, a patch versus a fix. I see a lot of clients are out there, they're wanting quick fixes. It's like, I got 6 weeks before I got a wedding. I've got 4 weeks before I'm going on a ski trip. I've got this going on, that going on, and they all want real fast results really quick. Okay? So rather than going for the patch, which is like a cookie cutter approach, it can be the same sort of program you're giving out to everybody. It could be the same nutrition plan you're giving out to everybody. It can be a quick fix. Might be just superficial and it's a this for that. Right? So here's your quick fix. It looks like the real deal, but it might not really do the job like we need it to. Versus a fix, which is more of a bio-individualized approach. We're looking and coaching a client for who the client is. I'm looking for long-term benefits. So sometimes if clients want quick fixes, I might have to tell them, look, the approach I take is more of a holistic approach, and I'm looking for long-term health. I want you to live to 100 and be radiant, be jumping out of bed and doing everything you love to do. It's very deep, and we're trying to get to the root cause. We're trying to figure out why somebody is in the position they're in and what we need to do to rectify it. What can you say? Discuss nutritional life. Oh, that's done that one. All right. Okay, so when it comes to nutrition, first thing you need to ask yourself is, what do they need to learn? Again, like I said, for me, I've been loving and studying nutrition for about 10 years or so, 12 years. And a lot of the information that I know now, it just rolls off my tongue quite easily. However, it still surprises me the amount of information that a client may or may not know. Okay, they might think that Diet Coke's a lot healthier than a normal Coke because it hasn't got any sugar. They might not have even thought about organic foods. So always, like I said in the first couple of slides, get to know your client. Get to know what they know about nutrition. When I go through some questionnaires with my clients, I always sit there and ask, how well do you think you eat? And most of them, 80% of them say, oh, I eat really well. And I say, okay, give me an example of a breakfast. Give me an example of a lunch, a dinner. What do you drink? What do you snack on? What quality is the food? How often are you eating? And at the end of it, I give them a little bit of advice, and then they realize that their definition of eating healthy and my definition are two completely different things. Okay? Quality of food. Organic. Are they eating organic food, processed foods, or just whole foods? So there's a big difference between processed foods and whole foods. Sometimes the first step I get a client to do is just get off processed foods. Anything that's in a packet, try and get rid of it. I don't care what quality of food it is, as long as it's a whole food, it's a fresh food, start buying it and start doing some cooking. And a lot of them might say, well, I don't know how to cook. I've never cooked. So I've written a cookbook, and I've got another couple that I have on ebook as well that I might give a client. I say, all I want you to do is get one recipe out of this cookbook and cook it this week. Next week, cook a new one. So now you've got 2 new recipes. So after a month, you've got 4 new recipes. Okay, and if they do it for long enough, then they've got this whole vocabulary of recipes they can cook. And again, for me, it's comes quite naturally because I'm also a qualified chef. That's what I did when I left school. So I do cooking workshops and fermented food workshops and all sorts. So I love talking to people about their food and how to cook it and how to get the most nutrients out of it. So when it comes to food, I don't really follow any regime. The regime that I follow is it's more about nutrient density. It's what foods have got the most nutrients, nutrition, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, trace minerals, and elements as possible. Remember, we are what we eat and we don't excrete. Okay, so what are you building your cells out of. You're just a representation of what you've been eating. And a lot of clients that are in pain, I work with a lot of clients with back pain and injury, and I find that one of the main things I need to focus on is their food. Working with their digestive system, getting that cleaned up, and start getting them some solid building blocks to start rebuilding their body. Next thing, quantity. We're looking at calories. How many calories do we have to use? Is it good to cut calories? How much fat, protein, and carbs? Like I said, there's all different types of diets out there promoting all different ratios. What are some common myths that people might think? Soy. There's the whole belief on vegetarianism. It might be really good for some, but it might be terrible for others. Right? So we've got to start getting at the myths that people are holding on to. What do they need specifically for their current position, like I talked about? And when we really get into fine-tuning it, sometimes I put them on a 4-day rotation or elimination diet just to see if there's any foods that are disrupting them. Okay, here's some little facts for us. Very smart guy, Arden Anderson, had a quote: "A little bit of nonsense repeated for just 10 years can wipe out 100 years of truth." And when it comes to nutrition, that's what I found. Nutrition is probably one of the most bastardized, I guess, bit of information that's out there. There's marketing is huge, right? Normally a good way to look at it is the more money they spend on marketing a food, normally the worse it is for you, okay? So let's have a look at this. $33 billion a year on weight management in the US. 55 gallons of soft drinks are drank every year. 26 gallons of tea and coffee each year. This is for a single person. 25 gallons of alcohol. I don't drink at all, so that means that somebody standing next to me is drinking 50. 170 pounds of sugar. 220 pounds of additives. And the thing is that our liver, our digestive systems have to deal with this. And it's costing our body a lot of energy. A lot of people that don't have energy is because of the way they're eating. They're eating so much rubbish, their body is wasting so much energy just trying to deal with it. A lot of people that go into a vegetarian diet, they feel amazing. Their energy goes through the roof. And a lot of the reason is because they're eating whole foods. They're cutting out a lot of this crap, this rubbish. Australians spend about $1 million a day on weight loss attempts with little success. Like I said, 95% of health and fitness goals fail. And like I said before, the one thing I focus on most at the start is their one love. What's their dream? What's big enough to get them to change? And remember, realize that change is hard and go slow. $160 billion spent on drugs every year. $110 billion spent on fast food. There's more medical technology than ever before. There's more doctors, but we're still the sickest, the fattest we've ever been. Australia has now overtaken America in obesity. Back in the early 1900s, there was 1 in 30 had cancer. All the way to today, it's 1 in 2. I've even heard some new stats coming out saying it's 2 in 3 people are getting cancer. And to me, it's a huge lifestyle factor coming down to the food and the way we live our lives. The first case of heart disease was back in 1920. Heart disease causes more than 40% of deaths in the US alone. Okay? From 1910 to 1970, animal fats have gone down from 83% of calories in the diet to 62%. The last 80 years, dietary cholesterol has only risen 1%. So everyone with high cholesterol, it may not be the things that they think it is. In the same period, vegetable oils have increased 600%. Sugar and processed food has increased 60%. Okay? Like I said, what you're looking at with your body is 60 to 100 trillion cells. We're replacing 2 million blood cells every minute. That means whatever you're eating, putting into your body, digesting, is turning into new blood cells. I think the latest stats that I read was every single cell in your body will replace itself over a 7-year period. So when a client sits in front of me, whatever I'm looking at in front of me is a representation of what they've been doing for the last couple of years. And if they're in pain, they're overweight, there's stuff going on, obviously whatever they've been doing isn't working. Why don't people practice good lifestyle habits? We won't go through this, we'll get into the juicy stuff. But most of it Fast-paced lifestyle, no time to select, prepare, or eat healthy meals, advertising and media manipulation and reinforcement by the medical model. So you can't really blame anybody. The hardest sessions I do with a client is when it comes to nutrition. And I don't do anything weird. I tell them to eat clean food, drink lots of water, go to bed on time, move your body. And it's surprising how many, not arguments, but discussions I have with my clients to try and get them just to eat clean food. They're so wrapped up and believing that, maybe a shake is the thing that's going to do it for them. It's a pill. It's the weight loss pill. I need, pre-workouts to get me through my workout. Okay? So let's get into it. Calories versus nutrition. You go to the supermarkets and they're laden with all this chemical laden food full of additives, preservatives, colorings, and again, anything on the back of a label that you can't pronounce, your liver isn't going to like it. We've all grown up, we've been around as bipedal animals, as humans, for 3 million years. And we've survived. We've done better than survived. We've thrived. It's only been the last couple hundred years since Industrial Revolution where we've started to process foods that we're the unhealthiest we've ever been, and like I said, we're the fattest that we've ever been. So for me, I want to look back at what our ancestors have done. Why did they live such a healthy life? Yeah, they might not have lived as long, so medical intervention has definitely helped out. And if I'm sick or I need a doctor, 100% I'm going to one, but there's a lot to learn. When it comes to nutrition, what do you think's got more vitamins and minerals, a banana or a loaf of bread? What do you think's got more nutrition, a steak or maybe a pizza? So to me, it's not a hard question, and this is the sort of stuff I try and get across to my clients, is that when you're looking at food choices, I'm always looking at where is the most vitamins and minerals and nutrition. Okay, and most of it's whole food, something that's been living. How long does a fillet of fish last in your fridge? About 3 days before it goes off. What about a steak? Same, less than a week and it's off. Milk, fruits, vegetables, everything that dies and goes off quite quickly means that it's got life force in it. It's full of vitamins and minerals and everything that our body needs. Okay, anything that's in a packet will stay on a shelf for a couple years even. That's telling me that that's dead. There's minimal vitamins and minerals in it, and if there is, they're normally being fortified, which means they've been added. And normally they're not the real good stuff. It's all the synthetic vitamins and minerals that they're adding to it. So one of the key things I try and get across to my clients is eating clean food, real food, right? And it takes a bit of effort. They're going to have to change a few things around. They might even have to start cooking, okay? But there's, you can buy pre-made meals nowadays, which are really cool. There's HelloFresh. So you get all the ingredients. All you got to do is get home and put it together and it's done, right? So that might be the first step for someone, is just buying pre-made real food. And when it comes to real food as well, then we've got the next step above that, which is organic food. Anybody that needs to know anything about nutrition should be looking into soil health, because obviously that's where nutrition starts. And let's have a look at it. So here's some nutrients, and here's all organic. The difference with the percentage. With fruits and vegetables, there was 22.7% more vitamin C in organic crops. Same with iron, calcium, and the rest of them. Even with the cows, if a cow was free range and in the sun, if they're in the sun, the meat now has got more vitamin D in it. If they're eating the grass, it's got more vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K. Okay, and these are our fat-soluble vitamins, which are essential, especially for our hormonal system. So if anyone's looking to lose weight, put on muscle, the better quality food, especially organic if you can get it, is going to do wonders for us. Let's have a look at this guy, Weston A. Price. He was around back in the early 1900s. He was a dentist from Michigan in the States. And at the time, in the early 1900s, his nephew was working for National Geographic and taking photos of all these indigenous people. And they had beautiful straight teeth, and he brought them back and he showed his uncle the dentist, and he said, well, why am I working in America where everyone's got tooth decay, cavities, their teeth are all crowded and needing braces, and these indigenous people have got beautiful teeth. So for the next 10 years, he went around the world looking at the indigenous cultures, what foods they ate, how much macronutrients, fats to proteins and everything like that they ate. And he looked at tooth decay, and he wrote a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And I believe that this is like the Bible to nutrition, right? This is, again, anything before the 1950s when it comes to nutrition and information, I think is gold, because Weston A. Price, he didn't have anybody backing him. He didn't have the big food conglomerates or, Woolworths backing him or Coca-Cola backing him and paying for his studies. He did this off his own back. So, again, the earlier the studies I can find, I find that the better the information is. So, for example, he went to up to the poles, and he found the Eskimo, and he found, for example, the Eskimo were eating 85-90% saturated fats and protein. Like, you look around anywhere at the poles where it's colder, there's snow everywhere. All they had available was whale blubber, seal, fish, roe, eggs from them. The only time they got any sort of carbohydrates was when they cut open a seal and they ate the half-digested seaweed out of the gut. So on one end of the scale, you've got these populations which ate very, very high fat and protein. And then if you look around the equator where it's a lot warmer, I'm sure even like Queensland, my dad's got coconuts and pawpaws growing in his backyards and mangoes. That wouldn't happen down here in Sydney. Okay, so anyone around the equator, there was plentiful fruits and vegetables. If you look at the inland Aboriginals, they were having about 30 to 40% fats and proteins. And a lot of their proteins were coming from small mammals. They were getting it from lizards and snakes and witchetty grubs. So the amount of protein that was around the equator was a little bit different. So again, you got someone more down on this carbohydrate end. But again, when Weston A. Price went around and he found all these different macronutrient ratios, he found that all the indigenous people that were eating off the land and the food that was available to them were healthy. It was only when Westerners come in with the rails and the roads and they started bringing in the flours and the sugars and everything else, did their health start to change. They started to get tooth decay, and even the next generation, their bone structure would completely change. Their pelvis, their jaws would get narrower. The middle third, the nose section would get narrower. So that's why his book's called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. That's what happened when the Western foods came around. There was 10 things that Weston A. Price found that every single indigenous culture was doing. No refined or denatured foods. Everything was whole, right? And even the Swiss, they had lots of cows, and in spring there was lots of green grass. So these cows were producing lots of good milk and lots of cream. And even when the Swiss went to their athletic competitions and they were doing events like that, they'd live on a diet of almost lots of dairy, lots of cream. And a lot of the indigenous cultures also ate a lot of the fatty foods first because they knew that's where all the calories were. That's where the fat-soluble vitamins were, which was going to support their hormonal system. Consumption of animal proteins and fats from fish and other seafood, fowl, animals, eggs, milk products, reptiles, and insects. So he found that pretty much every single indigenous culture he came across were eating fats and proteins from animals. One of the cultures which were eating the least was the Maasai of Africa. And it wasn't because of choice, it was because there was just nothing around. So they used to have cows, and they'd even stab a cow in the neck and drain some of the blood out of it, drink the blood, they drink the meat, the milk, and they keep that animal as live as long as possible to get the most out of it to feed themselves. And when they ate all the meat, the organs and everything, then they'd even boil up the bones, right? They'd make a broth out of it. Then they'd even use the bones and other parts of the animal to make, tools that they could use. So the native diets, they used the whole tail to nose. Okay, they ate the whole animal, which is necessary. I make bone broths weekly. I eat organ meat weekly if I can, especially liver. Liver is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. They had 4 times more calcium and other minerals, 10 times the amount of fat-soluble vitamins, which is your vitamin A, D, E, and K. And like I said before, essential for reproduction hormones. Their foods were very high in enzyme content. Raw, cold-pressed, unpasteurized, and lacto-fermented. So because they didn't have fridges, they had to ferment a lot of things. Okay, and that increases the amount of enzymes, increases the amount of probiotics for the body. You know, nowadays this is probably one of the main things that we're lacking. I make my own fermented yogurts, I make chutneys and relishes, I make kombucha, I make all sorts of stuff. And I think it's essential, especially for digestion. All their seeds, grains, nuts were soaked for at least 24 hours. Normally, they left them in a flowing river for up to 2 days. And a lot of them are fermented as well. So it actually helps start digesting the grain, so it makes it easier in our digestive system and gets rid of something in there called a phytic acid, which is an enzyme inhibitor. 30 to 80% of their fat was from saturated fat. Only 4% of calories were polyunsaturated from vegetable oils. Okay? The amount of omega-3, which was from their animal fats, was, well, the omega-3 to omega-6 was a 1-to-1 ratio back in the day. Nowadays, it's like a 1 to 30. So there's more omega-6s by 30 times. And this is all from the polyunsaturated fats. Remember at the start I said there was 600% more vegetable oils? So omega-6s are very pro-inflammatory. The number one selling over-the-counter medication at the moment is anti-inflammatory drugs. Right? Omega-3s are very anti-inflammatory, found in abundance in organic or even free-range animals. And again, if the animal's free-range, the amount of omega-3 is going to be increased. If they're fed grains and other things, the omega-6 in the animal is going to be increased. Every single tribe dealt with salt. Everybody had salt. Salt's essential for digestion. It helps release enzymes in our digestive system to help break down food. Salt's essential for our gallbladder. Salt's essential for our adrenal glands to help catalyze cholesterol and put it into hormones. Every single tribe, like I was saying, made their own bone broth. Gelatin, if you want to look, check out Ray Peat, P-E-A-T. I'll put it just here for you guys so you can check it out. If you type in Ray Peat into Google and then type in gelatin, there's an article there. Have a look at that article. It's very anti-inflammatory. It's amazing for the gut, the digestive system, amazing for joints and bones, way better than any of those chondroids or anything else they're giving you for your joints. It's amazing for your nervous system. So for me, animal bones, gelatin, and making your own broths, which is simple. I got a video on YouTube. Maybe I'll share it with the group. Are essential. Nutrient-rich foods. This is they ate the organs first. Liver is the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. There's no other food with more vitamin A than liver. Okay? And it might weird you out a little bit, but again, at the end of the day, where is all the nutrition, vitamins, and minerals? Are you a lion or are you a giraffe? You know, are you a protein type? Are you a carbohydrate type? How are we going to know this? You know, you got things from the Atkins diet. The Eskimos, closer to the poles, are going to need more fats and proteins. Vegetarians are right down here in the carbohydrate types. So I give my clients a questionnaire to fill in, and you can just type into Google metabolic typing questionnaire, and it'll allow you to figure out someone's metabolic type to know if they're a protein type or if they're a carbohydrate type. And metabolic typing works at an oxidative level, at a cellular level. So through one of the check courses I did, we learned some low-tech physiological tests to be able to test somebody to see what their oxidative rate is, and if they're a fast oxidizer, they're going to be eating more proteins and fats. If they're a slow oxidizer, they're going to be eating more carbohydrates. Okay, like I said before, anyone around the poles were predominantly protein types because that was what was available. Anyone that was around the equator pretty much had more carbohydrates. And again, if we look at the color of the skin, what color of the skin is most people around the equator where it's hotter? They're a lot darker skin than us. So pretty much anyone that was white or is white came originally from usually the poles and can be said to maybe be needing more fats and proteins. Okay, so a couple tests we do. Breath hold. So I get somebody to take a breath in, hold their breath for as long as they can without breathing out. If they can hold their breath for less than 50 seconds, it tells me maybe they're going to be more of a protein type. If they can hold their breath for more than 60 seconds, they're a carbohydrate type. I do the respiratory rate, so I sort of sneak this one in. I get them on their back and I say, look, I'm just going to take your pulse for 30 seconds. While I'm taking their pulse, I'm watching their belly rise and fall. If I tell somebody I'm going to take the respiratory rate, all of a sudden they turn into Zen monks and they breathe once every 30 seconds. Okay, so I want to try and leave it natural. So I say, I'm just going to take your pulse and I just watch their chest and their belly rise and fall. I take that over 30 seconds and then I times it by 2. Again, if someone's breathing more than 17 times a minute, they're a protein type. If someone's breathing less than 15 times a minute, they could be classed as more of a carbohydrate type. And then you get these two answers and you whack it into this equation to get a different one. So respiratory rate, let's say it's 15 minus their breath hold was 50 seconds divided by 5, so that's 10. So 15 minus 10 equals 5. So it's 6 or less, it's in the carbohydrate type. If it's 8 or more, it's a protein type. So that's a really cool way to start getting a bio-individualized look at how to start feeding somebody. Insulin and fat. So to me, this is the main thing that we need to address when it comes to clients' nutrition. As we can see, insulin, as it increases from eating too many sugars, or just sugar alone will do it, insulin increases. Then also does your lipoprotein lipase, which is a fat-storing hormone. Your glucagon goes down, which is a fat-burning hormone. Your hormone-sensitive lipase, as another fat-burning hormone, goes down. So just realize that anytime anyone's having sugar, their insulin levels are going up. Anytime that happens, what happens? They start storing fat. And also they start reducing the amount of fat they're going to burn big time. And the reason is because the only time we had sugar available in our diet was in summer. So a lot more green things were available in summer. Our insulin levels would increase because it knew that winter was coming and we needed to start storing some fat for winter. Like bears, they eat lots of honey and sugar and carbohydrates to tie them over for the winter. So insulin really means to insulate. It's a hormone that's been built into us for survival. And anytime we're having too much insulin, we can get insulin resistance. Anytime we get insulin resistance, it creates inflammation. Anytime you're in an inflammatory state, it activates the sympathetic nervous system to release stress hormones. Anytime you're releasing stress hormones, cortisol specifically, it starts throwing your blood sugar levels out. Okay, it starts breaking down muscle tissue to get sugar into the blood, so we can either run or fight from somebody because it's a stress hormone. Again, now we got sugar in the blood, insulin goes up again, we get more insulin resistance, and it's a vicious cycle. So one of the first things I do with my clients is I get them off sugar as quick as I can, getting whole foods. There's some general symptoms of insulin resistance. Frequently asked questions, we'll skip over that because we're starting to run short on time. Calories we might do on another time as well. Why your body needs calories. Fat storing and burning fat. Okay, so unfortunately, lipogenic hormones are the fat storing hormones. Lipolytic hormones are the fat burning hormones. So straight away, a female has got 3 times more lipogenic hormones coming into a body than us. So males, quite luckily, have got 3 times the amount of hormones going out to burn fat. But anytime you start cutting calories, it's telling your body that, you know, we're in a starvation mode, so your body starts releasing more lipogenic hormones. So one thing I did want to touch on with calories is that anytime you start cutting calories, your body thinks it's starting to starve, your metabolism slows down. Your leptin levels, which is a neurotransmitter, it's a hormone for your brain to say that there's lots of food in abundance, starts slowing down, which will then affect your thyroid. And then you'll also start be releasing more lipogenic enzymes, which tell your body to store fat. Okay, so fat storing, you miss a meal, this is starting to happen. It creates a stress response. You start losing muscle, you get tired, you're needing snacks, and normally it's for the junk food, it's a quick fix. Okay, versus the lipolytic hormones, enzymes, sorry, which are fat burning. And these start releasing when we start eating frequently. Okay, nutrition is a huge topic. You know, I could have broken this down into many different sections, but I'll sort of speed it up now. Okay, some healthy eating action items that we can give to our clients. Eat right for your metabolic type. Try and get them to see if they're a protein type or a carb type, and just start feeding them one way or another. Then there's a tracking form I'm going to show you in a second, which will start looking at how to fine tune it. Avoid the 4 white devils: white sugar, white flour, processed dairy, and white table salt. Remember I said salt's important, but I use Celtic sea salt or Himalayan sea salt, which has got about 84 different trace minerals and elements. If you can't pronounce the word on the label, don't eat it. If it wasn't here 10,000 years ago, don't eat it. Water is important. Here's a little equation. 0.033 times your body weight equals how many liters a day. Again, good water should have some minerals in there. So if I filter my water, I just put a pinch of sea salt in there. And live by the 80-20 rule, right? We don't have to be monks and lock ourselves away and, live so strict. It can be an issue in itself. All right, let's quickly look at the tracking sheet that I give my clients to help really fine-tune the way they're eating. All right, and I can share this with you guys if you want. I'll get Jace to share it with you. So first thing I do is I explain that they have to fill this in at least 6 hours after they've eaten. That way, I know what their satiety was like. I know what their energy levels were like. I know what their mood was like after the meal. I get them to write down what they ate. Here they can sort of guesstimate, was it more of a mixed type, more of a carbohydrate meal, or a protein meal, or more of a carbohydrate meal. And then they come across and they tick either one of these or the other. They come along and they said, that meal made me feel full and content, or physically full but still hungry. And obviously the more negative ticks they've got, it means that the macronutrient ratio was out. And this over here tells you what went wrong. So they're physically full but still hungry. They had excess, which means too much fat and protein. Desire for something sweet tells you that they had too much fat and protein. They're already hungry, which means that they had insufficient calories or excess amount of carbohydrates. They had too many carbohydrates. So we look at the meal. Let's say they had a couple of these here and they had porridge for breakfast. I'd be like, okay, look, you got a couple of negative ones here and it was you're already hungry and you needed a snack. It tells me that there was too many carbs or you just didn't eat enough. How about, we go for some more protein in your meal? Can we get an egg or two in there? Okay, and we slowly start fine-tuning it around until I can get all ticks. Then it comes to the energy level. Energy feels recharged, or energy has not improved at all. Again, too many fats and proteins. And they go along and start ticking this. Crashed and burned, need for a nap. Again, too many carbohydrates. It happens to me all the time if I have something too sweet or I have a dessert. Crash and burn straight away. I get a nice little rise and I get a big crash. Then mood. How was your mood? I felt uplifted or anxious and or irritable. Again, too many carbohydrates. Brain is foggy, too many carbs. Gut feels heavy. Again, could be too many fats and proteins. So the one thing I try and get my clients to do is start tuning into their own bodies to figure out what they need. So many people out there are running their digestive system, their hormonal system, their nervous, their whole body, and either getting results or not getting results based on one idea, right? You might do CrossFit and think, everyone does paleo, so I've got to eat paleo, which might be a very high protein diet. So now you've got this idea in your head, which is completely running how your energy levels are, your mood, like I said, even your hormonal system. So by doing this, it allows my client to start checking in with them and realizing how they feel after a meal. Most of them don't even realize how the food is affecting them, or they might just get that 3 o'clock crash and not realize that it could have been whatever they had for lunch. I'm just tired all the time after lunch. Okay? So we do that for breakfast. They got their snack, their lunch, snack, and then a dinner. And then also get them to, did you drink your body weight in ounces of water a day? This is American. So again, you could just go 0.033 times your body weight is how much water. And you just get them to circle that. And I get a client to do this quite frequently until I can start seeing that they're starting to understand how to set their meals up day to day to get the best result possible. I naturally did this my own self when I was training, getting ready for fights. I found that some days I'd be light on my feet, I'd have all the energy in the world, I felt fantastic. And other days I'd go into the gym, I'd be dragging my feet, I'd be almost falling asleep, I just wouldn't have the energy. And I tied it down to the food I was eating, how soon before training I needed to eat, and really playing around with it. Right? Same as prime example, a lot of endurance athletes think that they need to carb load. What happens if you're an Eskimo and you're eating 80, 85, 90% saturated fat and protein? Right? Too many carbohydrates is going to make them feel wired. They're going to get a massive burst of energy, but then they're going to crash again. Okay, so just remember that bio-individualized approach. I think that might be it. I really appreciate all you guys hanging around and listening to it. If you got any questions at all, you can contact me at Cameron at cameronnell.com, or just on Facebook. You can just search me under Cameron Nell as well, or you can message Jason with any questions, and I'll talk to Jason. I'll try and get this over to you guys. I'm sure he got your email address, and even if you want, I can even send the slides as well. So let me know what you're after. I'll definitely send this across to you so you can check it. And yeah, I'll definitely send the slides as well, because some of the stuff in there, like this sort of stuff, you might start wanting to use. Okay? So again, really appreciate you guys listening in. I'll talk to Jason. We'll get another one of these organized. I'm not too sure. Maybe we'll do them monthly. And if you got any topics you want me to discuss or talk about, I'm more than happy to talk about them. So appreciate your time and spending your Tuesday night with me. And look forward to hearing you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye.